Taemin Park sat on the stone bench in the meditation garden. His hands held a small cup of tea that had gone cold an hour ago. Around him, cherry blossom petals fell slowly from artificial trees. The space station's artificial gravity made them drift like tiny pink snowflakes. The garden was in the center of Galactic Council Station Omega-7. This was where different alien species came to make deals and solve problems. The station was huge, floating in space near a bright star. Thousands of beings lived and worked here. Taemin did not move. He watched the aliens walk past him. His dark eyes followed their movements. He noticed everything. The way the bug-like Veltar clicked their claws when nervous. How the gas cloud Nimara changed colors when they talked. The way the lizard-like Kexthul flicked their tongues to taste the air. He had been sitting here for 3 hours. To anyone watching, he looked like he was doing nothing. Just a human enjoying the peaceful garden. But Taemin's mind was working. He was counting steps, timing conversations, and memorizing patterns. Diane Kim walked up to him. She was his helper, a young woman who was very good with alien languages. "Taemin," she said quietly, "the meeting starts in 20 minutes. "I know," he said. He did not look at her. His eyes stayed on a group of Veltar delegates near the fountain. They had been there for 10 minutes talking in their clicking language. Dayun could translate most alien speech, but she could also read their body movements. "Those bugs look scared," she whispered. "They should be," Taemin said. "They are lying about the trade numbers." Dayun sat next to him. "How do you know?" "Watch the tall one. Every time he lies, he scratches his left antenna 3 times. He has done it 12 times since I started watching." Wu Jin Lee appeared from behind a tree. He was the head of human security on the station, a big man with worried eyes. "Sir, you should not sit out here alone. Too many aliens are watching you." "Let them watch," Taemin said. He finally stood up, leaving his cold tea on the bench. Sometimes watching is the most powerful thing you can do. As soon as Taemin stood, strange things began to happen. The group of Veltar stopped talking. One of them made a high whistling sound. Across the garden, a Nim aura changed from blue to bright red. 2 Kexthul guards near the exit suddenly stood very straight. Bora Choi came running over. She worked with communications and always knew what the aliens were saying to each other. Her face was pale. "Sir, you need to hear this. The aliens are sending emergency messages." "What kind of messages?" Taemin asked. "They are saying things like, 'He is moving,' and the silent one rises, and phase 1 begins now." Bora looked confused. "I do not understand. You were just sitting." Taemin looked around the garden. More aliens had appeared. They stood in small groups, all watching him. Some were whispering. Others were backing away slowly. A few looked like they wanted to run. "This is very strange," Daon said. "Why are they acting like this?" Before anyone could answer, something shocking happened. A Veltar delegate approached them. It was the tall one who had been lying about the trade numbers. The bug-like creature stopped 10 feet away, and then did something no one expected. It fell to the ground. The Veltar pressed its face to the floor and spread its forearms wide. In broken human language it said, "Please, Silent Master, we beg you, do not do this thing. We will give you what you want. Just please do not start the plan." Taemin stared at the creature. "What plan?" More aliens began to approach. A Nimara floated closer, its gas body turning dark purple with fear. "Great human thinker," it said in a voice like wind through leaves. "We know you have been counting our weaknesses. We know you see all our secrets. Please show mercy." A Kexthul commander slithered forward on its belly. "Silent Deathbringer," it hissed. "We surrender. Your mind weapons are too strong. We cannot fight what we cannot understand." Wujin's hand moved to his weapon. "Sir, I think we should leave. Now." But Taemin was too confused to move. He looked at Daun. "What are they talking about? What plan? What mind weapons?" Daun was just as confused. "I have no idea. You were just sitting and drinking tea." More aliens were gathering now. Word was spreading through the station. Beings from dozens of different species came to see what was happening. They stood far away, but Taemin could see fear in their eyes. Some were shaking, others were making what looked like prayer gestures. A small crowd of humans also arrived. They were other diplomats and workers from Earth. They looked just as confused as Taemin felt. "What is going on?" asked Dongwook Nam, a trade negotiator. "Why are all the aliens on the ground?" "They think Taemin has some kind of plan," Bora said. "They keep talking about mind weapons and silent death." Cha Song, a military analyst, pushed through the crowd. "Sir, my monitoring equipment has been picking up alien chatter all day. They are very afraid of something. They think humans are about to attack." "Attack?" Taemin said. "I have been sitting in a garden." "That is what scares them," said a new voice. Hye Jin Yoon, a scientist who studied alien biology, walked up to them. "I have been listening to their emergency broadcasts. They think you're sitting with some kind of countdown." "A countdown to what?" "They are not sure, but they think something terrible is going to happen, and they think you are in charge of it." Taemin looked around at all the aliens still on the ground, still begging. Their fear was real. These were powerful beings from across the galaxy, and they were terrified of one human who had been drinking tea in a garden. "This is insane," he said quietly. The Veltar delegate who had first approached looked up from the ground. "Please, Silent Master, tell us what we must do. We will do anything. Just please, call off the attack." "There is no attack," Taemin said. "The biome." Alien's eyes went wide with terror. "You deny it. This means it is worse than we thought. You are so confident that you do not even need to threaten us." Taemin felt a chill run down his spine. Somehow, by doing nothing, he had become the most feared human in the galaxy, and he had no idea why. 24 hours earlier, Taemin's ship had docked at Station Omega-7. He had come for simple trade talks. Nothing special. Just discussions about Earth's new grain exports and mining rights on 3 small planets. But the aliens saw something else entirely. It started when Taemin's ship arrived at the same time as 3 separate emergency situations. A Veltar trade convoy had been attacked by pirates. A Nimera colony ship had lost power. A Kexthul military patrol had gone missing near the border. The aliens thought this timing was too perfect to be an accident. Then there were the intercepted messages. Human ships had been using a new code name in their communications, Silent Storm. The aliens had picked up fragments of these transmissions. They heard things like, "Silent Storm is in position," and Phase 1 ready for Silent Storm activation. What the aliens did not know was that Silent Storm was just Taemin's code name for the trade negotiations. Humans always use code names for important diplomatic missions. It was normal procedure. But to aliens who were already nervous, it sounded like a military operation. In the council chamber, 3 alien leaders met in secret. They were scared. Vel Queen Kithara was the first to speak. She was the ruler of the insect-like Veltar. Her forearms moved nervously as she talked. "This human, this Taemin Park, he is not normal." "What do you mean?" asked Gaslord Prism. "He was a Nimara, a being made of colored gas held together by energy fields." His form shifted from green to yellow as he spoke. "Watch the recordings from yesterday's preliminary talks," Kithara said. She activated a hologram showing Taemin in a meeting room with several alien delegates. In the recording, Taemin sat quietly while others talked. He rarely spoke. But every time he did speak, he said exactly the right thing. He predicted what the aliens would ask before they asked it. He answered questions they had not even thought of yet. "See?" Kithara clicked her mandibles. "He knows what we will say before we say it. This is not possible unless he can read minds." Scale Commander Thex slithered closer to the hologram. He was a large Kexthul with dark green scales and cold yellow eyes. "There is more," he hissed. "Watch how he moves." They watched Taemin in the recording. He moved very slowly and carefully. When he picked up his water glass, he did it smoothly. When he turned his head, it was precise. Nothing was wasted. "He moves like a predator," Thex said. like he is always ready to strike. But he never does strike. This means he is very confident. Too confident. Or very patient, Prism added, his gas form turning red with worry. In our studies of human history, we learned that humans can wait longer than most species. They call it strategic patience. But this human's patience feels different, dangerous. They continued studying the recordings. Taman had correctly guessed that the Veltar would try to increase grain prices by 15%. He had known that the Nimara would ask for exclusive mining rights before they even mentioned it. He had predicted that the Kexthul would want military escorts for their trade ships. How does he know these things? Kithara whispered. Maybe. Humans have developed new technology, Thek suggested. Something that lets them see into our minds. Or maybe they can see the future, Prism said. Time moves differently for different species. What if humans experience time in a way that lets them see what will happen next? The three leaders spent hours building their theory. Every piece of evidence seemed to fit. Humans were good at strategy. They were patient. They were calm under pressure. They seemed to know things they should not know. By morning, the alien leaders had convinced themselves that humanity had developed supernatural abilities. They believed Timon was not just a diplomat. He was a weapon, a living demonstration of human power. The fear spread quickly through the alien community on the station. Stories grew bigger with each telling. Some aliens said Taman could control minds. Others believed he could stop time. A few thought he could kill with just a thought. When Taman sat in the garden for 3 hours, the aliens saw it as proof of their worst fears. They thought he was charging some kind of psychic weapon, or counting down to an attack, or showing them how long they had to surrender. Mi Kyung-oh arrived on the morning shuttle. She was a human psychologist sent to help with the negotiations. She was supposed to study alien behavior patterns to help the human team understand their counterparts better. But when Mi Kyung started analyzing the aliens' behavior, they saw it as proof that humans could instantly decode any alien mind. Her simple observations about stress patterns and communication styles seemed like magic to the frightened aliens. Look at this, she told Taemin as they reviewed her notes. The Veltar delegation shows classic signs of group anxiety. Their clicking patterns are irregular. Their formation keeps shifting. I think they are hiding something. Taemin nodded. I thought so too. The tall one keeps scratching his antenna when he lies. Exactly. And the Namara representative turns purple when he is upset about money issues. The Kexthul commander hisses more when he talks about security concerns. To the humans, this was normal psychology. Basic observation skills that any trained diplomat would use. But aliens who were listening nearby heard it differently. They heard humans casually discussing how to read alien minds. The panic grew worse when Junho Bei, a human scientist, made an innocent comment during lunch. It is interesting how these species process information, he said to his colleagues. Their thought patterns are very different from ours, much more linear, less flexible. The aliens who overheard this conversation were terrified. They thought the human was comparing their mental abilities and finding them inferior. They believed humans had studied alien brains and discovered weaknesses. By the time Taimin stood up from his bench in the garden, the entire alien community on the station was convinced that humans possessed incredible mental powers. They thought Taimin's 3 hours of sitting had been a demonstration, a warning, a countdown. They had built a conspiracy theory so complete and so frightening that the truth seemed impossible. How could they explain to their people that the most feared human in the galaxy was just a man who liked to sit quietly and think? The fear had become bigger than facts. And now, Taimin had to find a way to deal with it. Taimin tried to fix the problem by being diplomatic. This made everything worse. He called for a formal meeting with the alien leaders. When the invitation was sent, the aliens saw it as an ultimatum. They thought he was giving them one last chance to surrender before he unleashed whatever terrible power he possessed. The meeting was held in Conference Room Alpha, the largest room on the station. Taemin arrived 10 minutes early and sat at the human delegation table. Da-un Kim sat beside him, ready to translate. Woo Jin Lee stood near the door, watching for trouble. When the alien delegates entered, they moved like they were walking to their own execution. Fel Queen Kithara came first, her forearms held stiffly at her sides. Gas Lord Prism floated in next, his form a nervous swirl of gray and brown colors. Scale Commander Thex slithered behind them, his tongue flicking constantly to taste the fear in the air. "Please sit wherever you are comfortable," Taman said with a polite smile. The aliens froze. They saw his smile as a predator showing its teeth. They thought his offer to sit wherever they wanted was a trap, some kind of test to see if they would choose the wrong positions. After several minutes of terrified whispering, the aliens arranged themselves as far from Taman as possible. They sat on the very edge of their chairs, ready to run. "Thank you all for coming," Taman began. "I think there has been some confusion. I would like to clear things up." "Confusion?" Kithara's voice was barely a whisper. "You call our fear confusion?" "Well, yes," Taman said. "I am not sure why you are afraid of me. I am just here to discuss trade agreements." The aliens looked at each other in terror. Prism's gas form turned deep purple. "He admits it," the Nimara whispered. "He says our fear is wrong. This means he is so powerful that he does not even see us as a threat." Thex hissed loudly. "Great human, please. Tell us what you want. We will give you anything. Just do not hurt our people." Taman was getting frustrated. "I do not want to hurt anyone. I want to buy grain and discuss mining rights." "Grain?" Kithara clicked her mandibles rapidly. "Is that what you call it? Is that your code word for something else?" "No," Taman said, trying to stay calm. "Grain is grain. Food, wheat, rice, corn. Earth grows a lot of food, and we want to trade it for materials and technology." The aliens exchanged glances full of panic. They thought Taman was speaking in code. They believed grain and mining rights were secret words for invasion plans and territory conquest. The situation got worse when Mi Kyung-oh entered the room. She was the human psychologist who had arrived that morning. She carried a tablet with her notes about alien behavior patterns. "Sorry I am late," she said to Taman. "I was reviewing my analysis of the delegation's stress indicators." The aliens heard this and nearly panicked. They thought she was reporting on how well their minds had been read. They believed the humans had spent the morning dissecting their thoughts and finding their weaknesses. Mi Kyung sat down and opened her tablet. "The patterns are very interesting," she said to Taman. "Classic displacement behavior, increased territoriality markers, elevated threat response protocols. It is like they think they are in immediate danger." "What do you recommend?" Taman asked. "Standard de-escalation techniques. Speak slowly. Keep your hands visible. Do not make sudden movements. Give them time to process information." To the humans, this was normal psychology advice for dealing with stressed individuals. But to the aliens, it sounded like humans discussing how to manage their prey before the kill. Kithara stood up suddenly, her chair falling backward. "We cannot take this anymore," she shrieked. "You sit there reading our minds and talking about how to control us. What do you want from us?" "I want you to calm down," Taman said carefully. This was the worst thing he could have said. The aliens saw it as a command. They thought Taman was using his mental powers to force them to be calm. Several delegates began backing toward the Yao. Daeun Kim finally understood what was happening. She had been listening to the aliens' translation patterns and body language. "Taman," she whispered, "I think they believe we can read minds." "What?" "They think humans have psychic powers. They think you have been scanning their thoughts." Taman stared at her. "That is ridiculous." "Not to them," Daeun said. "Look at it from their perspective. You predicted everything they would say in yesterday's meeting. Mi Kyung is analyzing their behavior like she can see inside their heads. You sit still for hours like you are charging some kind of mental weapon." Before Taman could respond, Young Soo Im entered the room. He was a human engineer who worked on the station's systems. He was not supposed to be at the meeting, but he had heard about the crisis and wanted to help. "Sorry to interrupt," Young Soo said, "but I heard there was some kind of problem. If it helps, humans are really good at planning ahead. We always think several moves ahead even in simple games like chess. Maybe that is why the aliens think we know what they will do next. The room went completely silent. The aliens stared at Young-Soo with absolute terror. He had just confirmed their worst fears. Humans could think several moves ahead. This meant they could see the future. This meant they planned in ways that were impossible for normal beings to understand. Prism's gas form began to swirl frantically. Several moves ahead, he whispered. They think in multiple dimensions. They see all possible futures. Thex began to back away slowly. This is why the silent storm human sits so still. He is calculating thousands of possibilities at once. Kitara fell to her knees. We surrender, she cried. Please, master of time and thought, we surrender. The other aliens in the room began to prostrate themselves. Some were crying, others were praying in their native languages. A few looked like they might faint. Taemin looked around the room at the terrified alien delegates, then at his confused human colleagues. He realized that every word they said was making things worse. The aliens had built such a complete picture of human supernatural abilities that the truth sounded like lies. We have a problem, he said quietly to Daun. Yes, she agreed. A very big problem. Outside the conference room, more aliens were gathering. Word was spreading through the station that the humans had revealed their true powers. Panic was beginning to take hold of the entire alien population. Taemin knew he had to find a solution fast before fear turned into violence. Taemin decided to prove that humans were normal. He planned a demonstration to show the aliens that humans had no special powers. This was a terrible mistake. He gathered all the alien delegates in the main observation deck. The room had huge windows showing the stars outside. Taemin stood in the center while his human colleagues sat nearby. The aliens stayed as far away as possible, pressed against the walls. I want to show you that humans are just like you, Taemin said. We have no magic powers, no mind-reading abilities. We are normal beings who happen to be good at observation and planning, the aliens whispered fearfully among themselves. They thought this was some kind of test. Watch carefully, Taemin continued. I will demonstrate normal human thinking. He looked at the alien delegates for 30 seconds, studying their positions and body language. Then he began to speak. Vel Queen Kithara, you are going to ask me about grain shipment schedules within the next 2 minutes. You will specifically want to know about deliveries to your outer colonies. Kithara's 4 eyes went wide with shock. Gaslord Prism, you are planning to interrupt me in about 90 seconds. You want to ask about mining equipment specifications. Specifically, you want to know if humans have developed new drilling technology. Prism's gas form began to swirl, frantically. Scale Commander Thex, you are going to object to the mining discussion. You think it is a distraction from security concerns. You will suggest that we talk about patrol routes instead. Thex's tongue flicked rapidly in and out of his mouth. How? Whispered one of the smaller alien delegates. Simple observation, Taemin explained. Kithara keeps looking at the chronometer on the wall. Her people need food deliveries on a regular schedule, so she is worried about timing. Prism's color keeps shifting toward the yellow spectrum, which Daun tells me indicates curiosity about technical matters. Thex's posture shows he is ready to challenge whatever anyone else says because he prioritizes security above all else. The aliens stared at him in horror. To them, this was not normal observation. This was supernatural prediction. Then, exactly as Taemin had predicted, events began to unfold. Kithara spoke first. Great human, I must ask about grain deliveries to our outer colonies. When can we expect the first shipments? The aliens gasped, in terror. 90 seconds later, Prism interrupted. Forgive me, but I am more interested in mining equipment. Do humans have new drilling technology we should know about? More gasps. Some aliens began to back toward the exits. Then Thex hissed, loudly. This is foolish talk. We should discuss security patrols instead of mining and grain. Several aliens fainted. Others began to pray loudly in their native languages. Taemin realized his demonstration had made everything much worse. Wait, he said. This is not magic. This is just pattern recognition. Any intelligent being can learn to do this. But the aliens were beyond reason now. They had seen Taemin predict the future with perfect accuracy. Their worst fears had been confirmed. So young Kang, a human diplomat, tried to help. Perhaps we should explain human education, she suggested. We teach children to observe and analyze from a young age. It is part of our normal development. You train your young to be psychic? Kythera whispered in horror. No, So Young said. We teach them to think logically and pay attention to details. You mean all humans can do what the Silent Master does? Well, yes. Most humans can predict behavior patterns if they watch carefully enough. This revelation sent the aliens into complete panic. They had thought Taemin was a unique individual with special powers. Now they learned that all humans possessed these abilities. The situation became even worse when Junho Bei, the human scientist, made an innocent comment. Of course, some humans are much better at this than others, he said. Taemin is exceptionally skilled. Most of us can only plan a few steps ahead. Only a few steps ahead? Prism's voice was barely audible. Maybe 5 or 6 moves, Junho continued. Taemin can probably think 10 or 15 moves ahead in complex situations. The aliens looked at Taemin with absolute terror. In their minds, he had just been revealed as one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The alien coalition began to fracture as different species decided on different responses to the human threat. A group of Veltar delegates held an emergency meeting. In the corner. We must surrender immediately, Kythera declared. If we submit to human authority now, maybe they will spare our colonies. The Nimara had a different idea. We should evacuate this sector, Prism argued with other gas beings. Put as much distance as possible between us and these mind readers. The Kexthol took a third approach. We must learn their secrets, Thex hissed to his military advisors. If we can understand how humans think so far ahead, we can defend ourselves. But a small group of younger aliens had the most dangerous idea of all. They whispered in the far corner of the room, planning a preemptive strike. We must attack before they become too powerful, one of them said, while they are still few in number. Taemin watched the aliens breaking into fearful groups. He could see the situation spiraling out of control. Some looked ready to surrender. Others wanted to run. A few appeared to be planning violence. Unsu Park, a human crisis counselor, approached him quietly. Sir, this is getting very dangerous. The aliens are in full panic mode. Some of them might do something desperate. Hyunwoo Shin, a military advisor, was more direct. Sir, we might need to use their fear to our advantage. If they think we are this powerful, maybe we should let them think it. Absolutely not, said Nari Jon, a human ethicist. We cannot build galactic peace on a foundation of lies and fear. We have to find a way to calm them down. But Taemin was not listening to his advisors. He was watching the aliens and thinking. The same stillness that had started this crisis was now helping him find a solution. He had been approaching this problem wrong. He had been trying to convince the aliens that humans were not powerful. But maybe the answer was not to deny human abilities. Maybe the answer was to share them. I have an idea, he said quietly. But it is going to require all of us to be very patient. Dayun looked at him worriedly. What kind of idea? We are not going to prove that humans are powerless, Taemin said. We are going to prove that power shared is power multiplied. He walked to the center of the room and sat down cross-legged on the floor. The simple action sent ripples of fear through the alien delegates. I am going to sit here and think, he announced, and I am going to teach any alien who wants to learn how to think the way humans think. The room fell completely silent. Even the panicked whispering stopped. Who wants to learn how to see several moves ahead? At first, no alien moved. They stared at Taemin sitting cross-legged on the floor, afraid it was a trap. But curiosity began to overcome fear. A young Veltar worker was the first to approach. She was not part of the official delegation, just someone who cleaned the station's corridors. Her name was Zikta, and she was braver than the important aliens because she had less to lose. You will really teach me? She asked in broken human language. Yes. Taman said calmly. Sit down and I will show you how to see patterns. Zikta sat on the floor facing him, her forearms folded nervously. First lesson, Tamin said. Observation. Look at Gas Lord Prism over there. What do you see? I see a Nimara leader, Zikta replied. Look closer. What color is he? Blue and gray. Good. Now watch him for 1 minute and tell me if the colors change. They sat quietly for a minute. Zikta watched Prism carefully. The gas being's form shifted from blue to yellow to purple and back to blue. He changes colors, Zikta said excitedly. Exactly. Now what do you think makes him change colors? Zikta thought about it. When other aliens talk about fighting, he turns red. When they talk about running away, he turns yellow. When they talk about surrender, he turns blue. Very good, Taimin said. You just learned to read Nimara emotional patterns. This is not magic. This is observation and pattern recognition. Inseok Ryu, a human meditation instructor, sat down next to them. The next step is patience, he told Zikta. Humans wait and watch before we act. This gives us time to understand what we see. Bitna Huang, a human chess master, joined the growing circle. And then we plan, she added. We think about what might happen next and what we should do in each situation. More aliens began to approach. A small Kexthul guard sat down next to Zikta. Then a junior Nimara diplomat floated over. Soon there was a circle of aliens sitting around the humans, listening carefully. Taimin taught them the basics. How to watch for body language clues. How to listen for changes in voice patterns. How to notice when someone was nervous or lying or excited. The tall Veltar delegate scratches his antenna when he lies, Taimin explained. Watch for it during the next negotiation. The aliens practiced on each other. They discovered that Kexthul hissed more when they were worried. They learned that Nimara turned purple when they felt guilty. They realized that Veltar clicked their claws faster when they were making decisions. This is amazing, said the young Kexthul guard. We never noticed these things before. You never looked for them, Bitna explained. Humans are taught to observe from childhood. We play games that require watching and remembering. We study faces and voices and movements until it becomes automatic. The official alien leaders watched from across the room. They were confused and frightened. Why were there people sitting with the humans? Why were they not running away? Scale Commander Thek slithered closer to listen. Despite his fear, he was curious about what the humans were teaching. Pattern recognition is just the beginning, Inseok was explaining to the growing group of students. Next comes strategic thinking. We imagine different futures and plan for each one. Show us, Zikta requested. Taimin stood up and walked to a wall screen. He activated a simple map showing trade, routes between different alien worlds. Imagine you are planning a trade convoy, he said. Where might pirates attack? The aliens studied the map. Slowly they began to point out dangerous areas, places where ships had to travel slowly, routes that passed through empty space with no help nearby. Good, Taimin said. Now imagine you are the pirates. Where would you wait? This was harder, but the aliens began to understand. They started thinking like their enemies. They found hiding spots and ambush points they had never considered before. Now imagine you are the convoy again. How do you avoid the pirates? The aliens suggested different routes, escort ships, and communication protocols. They were learning to think several steps ahead. Gas Lord Prism could not resist any longer. He floated over to the group, his form a nervous mixture of colors. This thinking method, he said carefully. It is not supernatural. No, Taimin replied. It is just practice. Humans have been doing this for thousands of years. We had to learn to outsmart predators and enemies with our minds because we were not the strongest or fastest species on our planet. You mean humans are not naturally superior? Asked Velqueen Kithara, who had also approached the group. We are good at certain things, Yun explained. Pattern recognition, strategic planning, long-term thinking, but we are terrible at other things. We cannot change colors like Nimara. We cannot communicate through chemical sense like Kexthul. We cannot coordinate group actions like Veltar. But you can teach us your skills? Of course, Taemin said, just like you can teach us yours. Over the next several hours, something remarkable happened. The fear began to fade as understanding grew. Aliens discovered that human abilities were not magic. They were skills that could be learned. The humans, in turn, learned amazing things from the aliens. Veltar taught them how to think as a group, mind, sharing ideas instantly across large numbers of individuals. Nimara showed them how to process multiple streams of information simultaneously. Kexthul demonstrated how to track complex patterns through chemical analysis. We have been approaching this all wrong, Yejin Ko, a human philosopher, observed. We each have different kinds of intelligence. Instead of fearing each other, we should be learning from each other. As the day ended, Taemin found himself back in the meditation garden. But now he was not alone. Aliens sat nearby, practicing the stillness and observation techniques they had learned. Some were meditating. Others were watching the movements of beings around them, looking for patterns. Zikta approached him with a question. Master Taemin, I understand now that humans are not gods, but I am confused about one thing. What is that? Why do you make thinking look so frightening? When you sit still for hours, it scares us. We think you are planning something terrible. Taemin smiled. It was the first genuine smile he had made in days. We do not make thinking look frightening, he said. You just forgot that good thinking takes time, and time requires stillness. And stillness requires patience, added Zikta, remembering her lessons. Exactly. Around them, the galaxy's first interspecies academy of strategic thought was beginning to form. Seok Jin Moon, a human teacher, was already organizing classes. Hana Seo, a historian, was documenting everything for future generations. The crisis that had nearly destroyed galactic peace had instead created something new. A community of beings from different worlds, learning to think together, plan together, and understand each other. Taemin looked around the garden at aliens and humans, sitting peacefully side by side, all practicing the art of patient observation. The fear was gone, replaced by curiosity and respect. He had started this by just sitting quietly and drinking tea. Now he had accidentally become the founder of a new tradition of galactic wisdom. Sometimes the most powerful thing you could do was nothing at all. Sometimes the greatest gift you could give was time. And sometimes the best way to stop being frightening was to teach others how to be just as frightening as you. The galaxy was about to become a much more thoughtful place.